Running ClearTech Loop. As you know, we're a podcast on AI security and cloud security, and I'm here today with Gerry Gadoury, the CEO and founder of RedBeard Solutions. Hi, Gerry.
Great. Thanks for having me on, Joe.
Thanks for being here. In case you all aren't following Gerry yet, and you should be, RedBeard Solutions is an SBA certified disabled veteran-owned professional services firm that has a strong focus on cybersecurity and tech, and they work in the federal and private sectors.
Correct.
So again, appreciate your time, Gerry, and let's just get started with the questions.
Awesome.
As you know, everybody that joins the podcast, we ask 3 questions, and today's no exception. So the first is, how can cybersecurity professionals leverage generative AI to kind of break out of that traditional tools and tech mindset and drive more innovative thinking and execution in their security programs?
Sure. So my first introductions to cybersecurity was back when phone phreaking was a thing. So I say all, so I know the company's name is RedBeard Solutions, but if there were truth in advertising, it would be Graybeard Solutions. So
Oh, no.
I mentioned that to say that generative AI is the latest kid on the block in the tete-a-tete between the bad guys and the good guys. So the number one thing that I would recommend is to make sure you're staying abreast of the changes. Don't forget the human component. Social engineering has always been the easy way in. And make sure that you're seeing what your peers are doing, but also what the bad actors are doing.
That's a great answer. You got to stay current, right?
Yes.
This stuff doesn't slow down.
No.
So the next question is, how can organizations embed security and privacy controls into their AI model development without sort of slowing down innovation?
Yeah, again, I have such a strong tendency to go back to the social component, and in this, I'll differ slightly and say that do real risk assessments. I think that sometimes we focus too heavily on what could happen, and we don't cover what is likely to happen, and sometimes that overcompensation creates a weight that slows things down too much and impacts user adoption. So that would be my advice. Do real risk assessments. Don't look so much for the boogeyman. Look for the person actually knocking on your door.
It's so interesting that you said that, because I was at a conference last week and they were talking about non-technical executive tabletops around ransomware.
Mm-hmm.
And what was funny about it was that, and it wasn't funny, but when the one of the CISOs was telling a story about how they stuck all the executives in the room, everybody, CFO, CEO, all the stakeholders, and everybody was fighting about the fact that their thing, whatever they covered, was the most important thing to the company. Right? You're smiling.
Human nature, yes.
Right? Normal. But they couldn't get alignment on, hey, if the you-know-what hit the you-know-where tomorrow, what do we do? What do we need to get the business at a minimum up and running? Right? And they hadn't really had that all the technical folks had run books and playbooks, but they hadn't really sat down with the executives to talk about that. And the perspective that they got from that was really interesting about what everybody thought was important.
I make a big deal out of it when I'm talking to CISOs and other cybersecurity executives, not to lose the human piece. Their interaction with their teams not only impacts their own success trajectory. I mean, gosh, we've all worked with companies that believe security should be mandated, not sold. And the end result is always resistance. The inverse, what you're describing, and understanding the executive's concerns, mitigating the necessary fears, and getting them on the right track is so important. I mean, obviously we're tech folks. We care about the technical solution, but we can't lose sight of the fact that the other word is solution.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I like that. So let's take a minute and get your perspective on how the CISO, because I always think of it as a balancing act. So I'm really curious about how you think about it. If on one hand, we've got AI adoption in terms of its use to secure emerging threats, right? So what can it do for me in security? But from an organizational governance perspective, how should the CISO be thinking about these things and then trying to balance them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm gonna, and I hope this doesn't come up as a block. So feel free to hold my feet to the fire if I don't really answer your question. I'm reminded of the late 90s and early 2000s when the CIO slash CTO was just earning their seat at the big table.
Yeah.
And CISOs are in a very similar place now. And they need to accomplish the same things that CIOs and CTOs did then, which is to say they have to understand more aggressively the business aspect of the decisions they make. If you remember back to the 90s, a lot of CIOs were like little kids in a toy store. They were
Mhm.
making changes because they were cool and it was the cutting edge stuff, and their inner nerd wanted to play with the new toy. And they were failing to understand the business ramifications. I say that because I'm guilty of it. So I feel okay making that shot or taking that shot. But they had to better understand, and the dot-com crash kind of taught them in a hard way, that their technological changes needed to be supported by the business. There need to be a business reason why. I think CISOs now really need to ensure that the decisions they're making, again, going back to a risk assessment, are following probable avenues of attack and make sense for the organization involved. So I don't know if I'm answering your question well, but I would say they need to make sure that their adoption is rapid enough that their organizations are protected, but not so rapid that they're beta testers.
So what I'm hearing you say is the Department of Maybe.
Yeah, I know I hate saying that. It's such a dodgy answer, and I'm 100%. I don't know that there's a blanket answer. If
No,
I'm the CISO of a
no.
regional bank, my
Yeah.
answer is going to be different than if I'm Gerry, the CISO of a manufacturing company that makes ball bearings. They're different things that'll have, I think, very different answers.
Yeah. And I think you nailed it right there, right? If I'm in a super regulated industry and I'm the CISO, I'm way more nervous about shadow AI and the stuff that's going on, right? And exfiltration and all that stuff than if I'm, making ball bearings somewhere, right? Or planters or whatever. So I get it, right? And you're going to think about it differently if you are, it's interesting. I remember studying for the CISSP, and a lot of the questions were about risk. I was thinking that they were going to be about security, right? But they were about risk. And I remember one of the lessons about studying for the test was that, um, you know, they're trying to train a risk officer. And I think about that when I think about AI, because I feel like, and I'd love to get your perspective, that the CISO needs to be thinking about risk even more than before.
Yes, the world has become less certain. AI is such a. Do you remember back in the day when we used to tease non-technical hackers and call them script kiddies?
Oh yeah,
Um,
screw.
for sure, they're technical masters compared to what you need to be now to enact a pretty sophisticated AI attack. So the platform of understanding that we're operating under is fundamentally different, and it's only changing more quickly. I mean, gosh, again, AI is such a new kid on the block that the AI landscape changes fundamentally by quarter. That's probably
Right.
even too. So staying current with changes and differences, and I know CISOs have a love-hate relationship with vendor salespeople, and I get that, but they can be your best friend if you can have a strong enough relationship to have them not go full pitch mode every time they open their mouth, and share what's really changing in their
Yeah.
platform, products, and
Yeah.
services.
Yeah. I was on a call this morning about Vendor X rolling out an AI specific firewall,
Wow.
right? I mean, think about that a minute. Like, huh? Come again? Say that again. So, it,
Yeah.
lots of changes.
At last year's big cyber tech conference for government in Maryland, the two buzzwords that everyone was talking about was zero trust and quantum computing. And I'm just wondering, when quantum computing enters the field and combines with AI, that quarterly change is going to be a darn near daily one. So
Yeah, I don't even know what that's going to look like. It's a lot to think about, isn't it?
I'm
Um,
reminded of the 1990s movie Sneakers about an algorithm. Do you remember that? No More Secrets? I'm reminded of that
right,
movie.
right. That was great. No more secrets.
Yes.
Um, yeah, right. But no, this is a fun conversation. Thank you again for taking time to visit with us. And I have to have you come back and we'll talk MCP servers or something, ephemeral agents or something else scary. How about that?
That sounds great.
All right. Thank you again.
Welcome, Joe.